It's loading. Okay. So we are now live. They say no man is an island, and we need other people to succeed. But how exactly can we manage all these islands around us and succeed but not get irritated? Hello, my name is Davina Elesin, and this is Davina Inspires. And here with me to inspire you all is
Queenette Enilama, but if you can't pronounce the word Queenette, you can actually just say cutie. It's good to see all of you. And thank you, Davina, for having me here. It's an honor. Thank you so much.
Thank you, ma'am. I'm so excited to be discussing with you today on
Same here.
relationships. So,
Same
we're going to
here.
be talking today on relationships from dating to friendships and everything in between. And just so you know, this is part of this playlist, a part of series that I really thought about. Some things I wish I knew before I entered secondary school. And I'm currently in the 11th grade and I have spent up to 5 years in secondary school. So the questions I'll be asking today would be on the things I wish I learned before I entered secondary school. And I'll be discussing with Miss Cutie. So
Hey.
let's start.
Okay.
Let's let's start. So we're going to be starting with the both dating and friendships question. I know that I watched a TED talk. So at the beginning of this year, my church gave us the opportunity for we the youth to teach, and I chose on how to make the right friendship and all those kind of stuff. And I watched a TED talk, and they were talking about vulnerability is a very, very important, like, isn't it? The person talk made it sound like an ingredient. It's a key ingredient in having great friendships. But how exactly can we be vulnerable without being too vulnerable, without feeling like we are being a burden on this person? It's like me always going to someone talking about my problems. And how do we not feel awkward when we're trying to be vulnerable?
Okay. So that's a very interesting question, if you ask me. Let's go back to friendship first of all. And just so we know, I'm going to get my principles and guidelines are going to come from the good book that I read, right? So I mean, it's my faith, and I'm not ashamed of it. So it says, whoever wants to have friends, I'm going to paraphrase. If you want to have friends, you have to first of all be friendly,
Mm. Could you say where it's from?
right?
What part of the Bible?
It's in Proverbs, somewhere in
Okay.
Proverbs, right? So if you want to
Okay.
have friends, you must first of all be friendly, right? And friendship in itself is actually a huge sacrifice. There is nothing, and I'm so glad that you're actually having this conversation. And I think it's one, like you said, is one of the conversations that I think a lot of young people should have, before they get to the age of accountability, something they learn right from their childhood, and then they become young teenagers and then adults, because choosing friendship, choosing a friend rather, is very pivotal for the steps you take in life, right? So
Mm.
you go to school, your parents are not there. What kind of friends do you have around you? Are you even mature enough to know the kind of friend you should choose? Now, being vulnerable is a different kettle of fish, right? So there's oh, it's actually different. You have to know the kind of friends that you want to have. So first of
Mm-hmm.
all, does their vision align with yours? Now, when I say does their vision align with yours, I am talking about in regards to the situation and circumstances you are in. And that would be the fact that you guys are in school together right now. So the goal for
Mm-hmm.
school is to pass your exams and come out in flying colors, and even and seek for scholarships. Let's just say something like that. So you want to have
Mm-hmm.
friends who push you and inspire you to read. Of course, you have fun. Do you get? But you want to have friends who have goals, right?
Mm-hmm.
You want to have friends who have similar values like you do. So, for example, I am not a mean person, so I want to have friends who have respect when they talk to people, right?
Yes,
So
and I don't
these
mean,
are the
yeah.
things. Yeah, so these are the things you want to pick. Sometimes you get carried away when this person is so beautiful, handsome. This person is rich. This person is the it person in school. Person
Mm-hmm.
talks so well. But hey, ever thought about it, you can be all that. My mom used to say that, when I was much younger, I was a tomboy. I was a tom girl. Let me just say tom girl. I wouldn't take my bath. My friends were all guys, and I would be like that till 6. My mom would complain and complain. So one day she just told me, she said, "You know what? This your character will smell outside." I was like, character, as a child, you want to prove to your parents that they don't know what they're saying. And mommy, character doesn't
Yes.
smell. Yeah. She said, I said, mommy, how can character smell? It doesn't smell. That's bad English. She just looked at me and said, oh, and by the way, she's from Delta State. She just looked at me and shook her head and said, you would know. They will perceive it from afar that this dirty attitude you have. So, in hindsight, growing up now, being an adult, you hear, you remember some of those things. You just smell because it's the truth. You tend to smell dirty habits from afar. So as a teenager, as a growing child, you should know which friends am I going to pick. Are these ones pretending? And I think, we're too quick to choose friends. Was so much in a hurry. We don't, I mean, it says that you should test and see, right? You have known this person for just 2 weeks and you go, mommy, she's such a nice girl. That day she did 2 weeks. You haven't done a month. You haven't done 3 months. You haven't done 6 months to prove whether this person is true. I mean, it sounds like it is so much for a teenager to do or for a young adult to do. It's not. It's not. Else you would keep making terrible mistakes. And that friend is just in your life for a certain period of time. And guess what? You'd have opened your bowels. When I say bowl, you'd have told you this your friend all your secrets in 2 weeks.
Yes.
And guess what? Both of you have a quarrel, you're not talking, and then she goes away. And then guess what happens to you? You're not really, the truth of the matter is, it's not the fact that she has gone. What you are afraid of is the fact that she holds your secret and she's going to
And she
tell
tell
somebody else.
someone else.
Yes. And so you are here, you're like, oh my God, what have I said? This person. Do you understand? Now, being vulnerable, vulnerability is a gift. It's not a bad
I
thing.
never saw it
But you
that way.
should,
I never really saw it that way.
oh, it is, it's actually a gift, right? So everybody should get to a stage where they are malleable. You are able to, when your friend or someone tells you, oh, Davina, this thing you have done is not fair. I don't like it. Even talking to you is being vulnerable because somehow you have people who will tell you, you're hurting my pride. That they're being prideful. They'll tell you, I'm sorry, I can't tell you sorry. I'm sorry, I can't. Why would I have that kind of conversation with you? Do you understand? But this person comes and the person says, oh, Davina, what you did, I don't like it. Or Queen, what you did, I don't like it. The person is in a state of vulnerability. However, you should also know when to draw the line because naturally, as humans, we tend to take advantage of people who are actually really nice.
Hmm.
And like I said, if you're very smart and intelligent, you're able to perceive, permit me to use the word, you are able to perceive people's characters from afar. So this person is very nice and this person is very kind. Like, it happened to me. I always use myself as an example. Like, isn't it Queenette? Queenette won't say anything, don't worry. And it's the truth. She won't really say anything. So I'm here being all nice, but within me, I feel used. I'm not
Hmm.
happy
Yeah.
because I feel like my friends are taking advantage of me. So I should
Mm-hmm.
be able to learn to draw the line. That's where it comes to the part where we say you're self-aware and you have self-respect for yourself. This is not about being rude, but you have self-respect. You know what not to accept. You know when to choose yourself,
Mm-hmm.
right? You know when to choose yourself and say, you know what, Queenette, this is becoming too much. This person is actually insulting me. So I'm going to put a halt on it and say, you know what, I don't like this and I'm not going to do this anymore. I hope this makes sense and I hope it answers your question.
It's kind of answered the question on how do we know if a relationship isn't working out? Because
Mm,
I think it was mainly in year 9 that a lot of different friendships for me were ending. It was mainly year 9 that made me that I was like, Davina, it's like you did not pick the right people to be your friends. And now in year 10, around second term, I had good friends, but then the next term is like they were not the same people. It's like we went home, we came back, it wasn't the same person I was talking to. Like a whole different character. And a part of me was like I was like, should I end this relationship? Or should I fight for it? Oh, fight for the times that you guys were always happy and always smiling and all this kind of stuff. And the time that I used to reminisce on, or let me say, the time that I used to be nostalgic, it prevented me from ending the relationship. So now my question is, how are we to know if a relationship isn't working out? And how do we know if we're to cut it off like immediately or fight for the relationship? Because I've heard of, I think this is not even only for friendships. I've heard of people married now and they're like on a separation because they don't want to get divorced. So how is someone meant to know, oh, should I just cut off the marriage or should I fight for it? Like, how do you know when to fight or when to just back off?
Okay, so let's piggyback back to relationship, marriage. Yeah. So, like I said, remember what I said. When we start to have these conversations early, it guides us from teenage years to adulthood, and when you
Mm-hmm.
become mature, you know what to do. Now, how do you know when a relationship or friendship, so to speak, isn't serving you, or it's time to cut it short, or it's time to
Mm-hmm.
fight for it? Now, um, humans were creatures of habits, right? We like to do certain things, and I believe that you judge people by their patterns, right?
Okay.
So when somebody does something consistently, you hear them say, that person is naturally like this. The reason why people say that is because they have watched this person over time, and the person has repeatedly done certain things, and it's just who the person is. Now, how do I fight for a relationship or a friendship that is so dear to me? First of all, it's a two-way street. It's not a
Okay.
one Friendship is not a one-sided thing. Sometimes, right, the other person might be oblivious to, their character and how they are behaving. But also
Mm-hmm.
remember that you are a reflection of the next person. Now, this might sound very tricky. Now, this
Yeah,
is it.
maybe it's like,
Yes, this might sound very tricky. So, when you stand in front of the mirror, it is what is standing in front of the mirror that you see, right?
mm-hmm.
Now, in the course of your friendship, how much goodness have you deposited into that friend of yours? How much? How much of that person has that person deposited inside of you? You always hear people say, "Oh, your dad and your mom, they're looking alike. They've been together for a long
Yeah.
time." Guess what has happened? They've become one. No, when the first time when people get married, you hear, "Oh, two shall become one," and you're like, "Ah, yeah,
Mm-hmm.
yeah, two shall become one." Guess what? As the years go by, they truly become one. They finish each other's statements. They begin to look alike. You know why? Because they fellowship together. They are constantly together. They are constantly learning of themselves, right? Sometimes in friendships, we are actually sometimes, not everybody, we are self-absorbed. It is all about us. My friend must please me. So you hurt me. You did this to me. It is me, 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 me. It is not us, right? And that's a bad thing, right? You have to be able to deposit so much goodness in the next person by teaching the person your value. So, for example, if you have a friend, if you know this person, everybody says this person is rude, but this person is your friend, and over time you have seen this person, and you're like, really, somehow you're rude, and you begin to tell the person, you know what, I don't think you should talk this way. I think you should talk this way because a lot of people say you're rude, and it's not really a good trait. The way you talk to the person, matters a lot. Now, if you know that you have if you know that you have deposited or invested so much in someone, wouldn't you
Mm-hmm.
fight for it? Let me ask you a question. If you wrote an exam today,
Mm-hmm.
if you wrote an exam today,
Mm-hmm.
and the invigilator said to you, you know that you passed, though, Davina. You went and you
Mm-hmm.
checked your scores, and you saw that it was 99, and then suddenly you come back. and you see that it is zero, are you not going to
Ah,
fight? Oh, definitely.
oh, right.
Definitely, you're going to fight, right? So it's the same thing with friendship. But guess what? Because we're so fickle-minded, we don't. We're like, I beg. I'll always get a friend. I'll always do that. That's
Mm-hmm.
why it is important to know the kinds of friends that you pick. It is very important to know, so you know whether it is worth fighting for. But if you have a friend, like you said, you go home and you come back. Remember that environments change people. First of all, there's a school environment. You're only there for 3 months, right? And in 3 months, a lot can happen. In 3 months, a
Yes.
lot of characters can develop. You can actually pick up people's character, people's traits. You can actually know who this person is. When the person comes back, remember the person has gone home. That's a different character the person has won. It has
Mm.
embodied another character. So the first few weeks when the person comes back to school, the person is acting very funny. Check it. If you're very patient and observant, in the next 1 month, the person is not going to be acting that way. The person is going to
Hmm.
drop all of that because, initially they're carrying the is it halo of their house and their environment. If they're back to school, oh, I'm not talking to you, oh, I'm all that. It certainly just dawns on them that, you know what, I'm back to school. This is not going to help me. I need to calm down. Then you see that they pick up again the character of the environment that they find themselves. Now, what do we have to do? We have to be patient. As friends, you have to be in any relationship, you have to be present. A relationship is sacrificial. You have got to put in the works. It's not easy. It's the same way you have to study to pass your exams. That's the same way
Mm-hmm.
you have to put in the works in a relationship. You see people that
But,
say they've been friends for 20 years. Go ahead, I'm listening.
yeah, but
But
what
you want
if
to say something?
it's only one person that is putting in the work?
Then you sit down and have a conversation. Like I said, I remember I said to you one time, I said, I am not a confrontational person. I'm not. You probably might just do something to me and I'll walk away. I'll probably talk about it some other time. It has cost me, some amazing friendships, right? But you have got to be able to sit down and have that conversation. So you sit your friend down and you say, I really want to talk to you. And one thing you should always remember, Davina, is not everybody is like you, not everybody thinks like you.
Mm-hmm.
See, I am looking at you, right? And I'm looking at you from a different perspective. If there's anybody sitting beside you, the person is going to be seeing you from a different perspective.
Mm-hmm.
Simple. So we all see this is where we're looking at, but we see differently, right? You have to be able to sit the person down and say, you know what? I have observed XYZ, and I'm not sure I want to even continue with this because it feels like, you know, we're not good for each other. But guess what? It's not in 2 weeks. You must give it time. So don't make that decision after 2 weeks and say, "Oh, I my friend is not nice." No, give it time. 3 months, 6 months. Just say, "Oh, the whole of year one, the whole of year two, and year three." You're like, you know what? I don't think I can do this anymore. Sit, have a conversation with this person. You might just be the one instilling common sense, which is not common, by the way, in the person. Yes, is the truth. You know, it's amazing because I look at a lot of teenagers and a lot of young people work too fast and too quick. There's something called process. Life is a process. So things will definitely unfold and unravel. Davina, look at you today. Would you believe that you were the same child you were 10 years ago?
I was like
No.
5.
Do you understand? Do you get? And you're like, oh my God. The thing that remains constant with you is your name,
Mm-hmm.
your face, and certain other things, right? And you've had certain traits. You have been Davina, the inquisitive one. You haven't changed. But guess
Mm-hmm.
what? Guess maybe when you were much younger, you probably liked ice cream. Now you're growing up. It's just an example. You're like, I don't really like that. You
Mm-hmm.
lose taste for certain things. That's how it
Mm-hmm.
is. As you grow, it's like a flower that buds. You begin to bloom and begin to lose certain things. This doesn't interest me anymore. This is what is catching my interest. Do you understand? That's the same
Mm-hmm.
thing with friendship. It evolves. So you have to, it's amazing saying this now. I'm also learning. The friend 2 years ago, you were probably not able to take certain things from your friends, and they did certain things that you didn't like. 2 years after, standing in the same position and having that same conversation, you're like, you know what, you didn't even know any better. That's why you acted that way, or that's why you were the way you were as at the time. So we have to give room for people to grow. We have to give room for people to make mistakes. However, you always have to have conversations.
Hmm.
We have to have, that's the one thing we
Even
don't
when you
do.
want
We
to end a
assume.
relationship.
Yes, assumption. If there's nothing you hear me say today, assumption is the greatest killer. It's the lowest form of intelligence. I'm telling you, it is the lowest form of intelligence. How do I just sit down and assume that Davina, um, I saw Davina talking with a couple of friends, and me and Davina are not talking, and then I just sit down and I assume that Davina is talking about me. How am I sure Davina is talking about me? And even if she's talking about, do I was I there? Did I hear? I'm assuming. And guess what? I can base a lot of principles on my assumptions, and I can leave where I am and go and tell another set of people that, can you imagine? I haven't spoken to you. I haven't heard what you have said, but I'm just assuming. And guess what? It will put me in trouble, because at the end of the day, somebody in the line who is more sensible than all of us will come back and meet you and say, Davina, did you really say this about Queenette? And Davina is like, oh, when did I say that? But Queenette said this. Then me and you begin to sit down and have that conversation that we were running away from in the first place.
Mm-hmm.
Do you understand?
So either
So
way,
it's
you're going to
important
still converse.
you must have the conversation. And in having your conversation, there must be comprehension. The person must understand what you're saying. It doesn't matter if you have to repeat yourself 25 times, right? Or you must have a conversation. You must leave room for growth. You must leave room for mistakes, because everybody makes mistakes.
Mm-hmm.
Everybody makes mistakes. But a repeated mistake might just be intentional and deliberate. A repeated mistake might just be. Now, don't get me wrong, people make mistakes, but there are certain mistakes that people deliberately make that becomes intentional. You just know that this person is just out. It's just, this person is just here to hurt me, or this person is here to mess me up, so I'm not going to do this. So you need to be very observant, right? You need to be.
Okay. So I think relating to that my friend's story that I was saying that we went home and I came back and it was like I came back to a different person. I think at some point I was noticing times that we fell apart, times that we went the way we were. But the problem for me, the problem that was like, Davina, should I drop this relationship or should I keep it? Was the fact that we were like a trio. It was, let me try and show, we were like a trio. So it was me, the person, and the person's friend. So let me just use names. So it was like
So let's
me,
just say it was
Sam,
like
and
Peter,
Kat.
Paul. Yeah,
Like I won't use a real
Peter,
name.
Peter,
So
Sam,
like
and Kat. Yeah.
it was like, so I'm Peter, right? I don't mind using myself in the example.
Yeah. Okay. So Davina, Peter, and Kat. Right.
Yeah,
It's
so it
fine.
was like Davina, Peter, and Kat, and we all were trio. But then I came back, and it was like Peter was treating me differently, but Kat was okay. And at some point, I got angry at both Peter and Kat, or like I was like getting pissed off by the attitude towards me. But it was mainly Peter that was showing that irritation. So I was like, I don't want to be in a relationship where, or a friendship in general, where the person is irritated by me or where the person is treating me in ways I don't want. But I was like, Davina, you entered this relationship with like Peter and Kat at the same time. So is it that you're being partial or what? So I didn't really know whether or not to cut the relationship with both of them or just with the one that was making me feel less than I really was.
Okay. So it would have been nice if you had the conversation. Now, let me tell you something, um, which, it's, I'm sure, I'm sure your parents must have said this, and I'm sure you must have heard it.
Said
20
what
children
exactly?
never played together for 20 years. 20
Oh,
children
I think I've heard something
never,
like that, but I've not heard it
yes,
exactly like that.
20 children can never play together for 20 years. Things will happen, right? things will happen. It's either some will fall on the wayside, some will be very close, and others will be very close. Now,
Mm-hmm.
the thing with you have to, before I even begin to answer that question, there's something that I would want to establish. You have to constantly check yourself as a person, right? Before you even begin to say, oh, this person did this to me, this person did that to me, ask yourself, am I the one at fault? And this has to be with clean conscience, not saying, not with pride or anything, and say, oh, I've checked myself, I didn't really do anything, it's the person's fault. No. Ask yourself, Queenette, this is what I do, and I'll tell you what I do. I believe in experiential, you know, lessons and teaching. So I use myself always as an example. So the first thing is, Queenette, what really happened? Were you being fair? In all honesty, were you being fair? Did this person act this way? If you have cleared yourself, because your conscience will tell you when you're lying, you will feel funny. So you have to always tell yourself the truth, right? So you are three, and one person is acting funny. Same thing I said, have the conversation. Let's
But
not
what will
just
we say?
assume.
What will we say?
What do you mean by what would you say? You have all of these emotions tugging you on the inside, right here, right now. You're asking what would you say? Go and tell the person, this is how your behavior is making me feel. I don't know what's going on, but this is how I feel. But guess what? Of course, people would say, "Oh, you're a bit too much." This is you. Your feelings are valid. Your emotions are valid, right? But you should always know how to navigate through the courses of life, right? Know how to navigate and say, "Okay, you know what, right? I will say this, I won't say this. Know what to say and know what not to say. It's not everything you're going to say, but you just go there and say, guys, can I have a conversation with you guys? Like, yeah, um, you guys know me, I know you, and I noticed that you, Peter, you've been acting a bit funny, and I'm going to go ahead. And Peter goes, how have I been acting funny? That remember what I said initially. People might be oblivious of how they behave. They might not even know what they're doing, right? Then you say to Peter, this is what you've been doing. And I really don't know why this is not how you. And if Peter is a sensible person, the Peter goes, oh, I'm sorry, I didn't mean it that way. Or Peter goes, no, I'm not doing it. I didn't even know how I acted that way. And you said the same thing to Kat. Kat, sometimes I come to you and I tell you this is what Peter has done. You're just indifferent about it, like it doesn't matter. No, it should. You have to exceed in a group of three. Your visions must align. You have to have conversations. That's the truth. You have to have conversations. I don't like the way this person, but always remember that three of you might not be extremely close. It's either Peter and Kat, or
Mm-hmm.
Davina and Peter, or
Mm-hmm.
Davina and Kat, or you know, you must understand that the relationship I have with you, Davina, is very unique. The relationship I have with Kat is very unique. The relationship I have with Peter is very unique to Peter. You can never be Peter. Peter can never be you.
Mm.
You can never be Kat. Kat can never be you. So we have to draw the line where we know that, okay, we're friends. We have a common goal. We have a common vision. However, let me tell you something. Let me give you a good example. Yes, your body. Your body is your body, right? And you love your body. Your nose can never function as your eye. Your eye can never
Mm-hmm.
function as your mouth. So let's say Peter is your eye and Kat is your mouth. And you are the nose, right? The three of you can never do the same function, but guess what? You all exist in the same place, which is the head,
Mm-hmm.
right? You all exist in the same place, which is the head. Now, if the eyes are not there, we can't see properly, right?
Mm-hmm.
If the nose is not there, the nose will not be able to perceive when there's danger, right? And if
Mm-hmm.
the mouth is not there to speak, I mean, we'll just be there. So everybody has its unique role. The thing we have to realize and understand is, as teenagers or as adults, is the fact that we all have different abilities and different unique gifts when it comes to friendship. The way I am with Davina is different from the way I am with Kat. We'll have, conversations, baseline conversations. We'll have definite things that we talk about, together, right? But maybe when I want to solve a problem, I meet Peter. Peter is good at that. When I want to keep a secret, I go to Kat because Kat is good at that. You have got to study your friends to know what they're good at, what they can handle, and what they cannot handle. And you, as a person, you have got to know where you stand, right? You have got to know yourself. Before you pick a friend, you have to know you first. Who am I? Who is Davina? What am I good at? What am I what are my weaknesses that I can work on? What are my strengths? What are the things I like? What are my values? What are my goals? All of those things matter in choosing, friends, and also in sustaining a relationship.
Hmm. I'm trying to write down the
Does that
points you
make
said.
sense?
That before you pick a friend, you've
Does
got
that
to
make
know
sense?
yourself.
Yeah.
And I know you
And
mentioned like some.
you should always know that. Sorry, you should always be comfortable around your friends.
Mm.
If you begin to, so there are certain friends you have that once they come into the vicinity, a very good example is when people try to tweet or when try to have some funny accent or phonetic, because they have friends that you just, so I mean, we all have different cadres of, different cadres of people. You have people who are very rich. I don't believe that there's a poor man. There's middle class. It's either you're poor or you're rich. And for me, to be rich doesn't mean you're staying in a mansion. If you're rich, you can afford all the basic things you can afford. I mean, you're okay. Do you understand? So you have this, maybe an overboard friend who is always talking about going abroad, who is always talking about this, and then you, normal you, suddenly when the person comes, you want to now try to, oh, so even when we went to summer, when we went for summer last, you didn't go for any summer. Stop it. So when you are around people that try to, and you are not yourself, it's a problem. Check yourself. Why am I not around? Why am I not myself around this person? Why am I trying to please this person? Why am I trying to be who I am not? If you
Mm.
can tell yourself that truth, then you know that maybe I'm trying to, I'm trying to please these people, and I'm wanting them to be friends with me. If you are in a friendship, if you have friends rather in a relationship, you should be yourself around your friends. Be
Yeah.
your true, authentic self around your friends. Yes, we evolve as we grow older. We evolve as we, but be your authentic self.
So what if our authentic self like has its flaws, but then
Everybody has
the
flaws. Everybody has flaws, darling. Everybody does. Trust me, I do.
okay.
And I always say to everyone, I love you, flaws and all. I say it all the time. I love you, flaws and all. Now, I often say that you are not in competition with anybody, you're in competition with yourself. So this is me. All of who Queenette is today is not who Queenette is going to be tomorrow. And I say this with all sense of humility, because at the end of today, I process my thoughts, process all of the things I've gone through, the way I reacted, the way I acted. And I say to myself, if this should repeat itself tomorrow, am I going to act differently? Now, see, the constant battle is between me and my past. I want to be a better version of myself. Do I still have flaws? Yes. But guess what? As I gradually and constantly know who I am more self aware. My errors are limited. It doesn't mean I don't have flaws. My errors are limited. I'm sure you've heard this word. Oh, she's almost near perfect. It's not because they are
Yeah, I think I've
perfect.
heard.
Everybody's a work in progress, right? But guess what? Some people take out time to just be better versions of themselves. So being a better version of yourself is, taking that weakness. So for example, consistency for me, people say, oh, Queen, you've been consistent in doing this. But guess what? I'll say this to you today. Don't think I've said this anywhere. That is a struggle that is something that I struggle with. So guess what? I have to be consistent. I have to push my consistency a bit further to know that I am consistent, right? So I have my own flaws. Everybody does. Your friends will. That's why I said leave room for mistakes. Leave room for people to make mistakes and also have a different perspective. You can disagree about certain things, right? You can disagree, and it's okay for somebody else to have a different perspective from what you have. Okay?
Mm-hmm.
So it's okay.
Now, this isn't the end of my discussion with the guest. Watch out for part 2. Hi YouTube, it's Davina. Again, don't forget to subscribe, comment ways that this video has inspired you, watch us for future inspiration, and share to someone you think needs this kind of inspiration in their life. Thank you and bye!